For the last 20 plus years, I've been hunting, hiking, fishing, and just recreating in the remote western wilderness. Well, I call it wilderness because to me, that's exactly what it is. And some of it is officially dedicated as such, but I guess not to confuse those who don't know. I'm talking about the millions and millions of acres on the good old public land ranch. Comparatively speaking, I'm still just a young man, and I know that some of you might have been traversing in these woods for more than 2 of my lifetimes. Living near and growing up in the extreme remote part of the West, it was easy. As long as the chores were done and you promised to make it back to school the next day, the world was yours. Step out the back door and start hiking for as long and far as your stocky legs and last year's basketball shoes could take you. Hunting was just what we did, and access to wild lands and untamed ranges that surrounded us was just something that we always had. And for the most part, aside from additional grown-up responsibility and big boy chores, life out here is relatively the same now as it was back then. Only now some of the landscape has changed. As I spend more time, there are noticeable differences out here. Even though transportation and resources are easier to come by as an adult, there are more limitations. Limitations and restrictions on where you can go in some parts of the countryside. There seem to be a few more canyons and mountain ranges that are guarded by miles of orange-painted fence line and even more locked gates than I ever remember having to climb under as a kid. The canyons and mountain ranges are still here, of course, and the elk and deer seem to gravitate to them with the slightest bit of hunting pressure, but it's my ability to actually hunt and explore these few places that is gone. Gone at least to you and me and those who used to roam there and catch trout in the streams as kids. Gone to old man Gamut who used to take out the old Ford and gather firewood or shoot an easy meat buck for the table each fall. No, that canyon is now dead to me. Of course it's not truly dead, but as it is, like many parts of our free land, it has been sold off to the cattleman that, when the state decided it was of little or no greater value to them as recreational land than as a chunk of oil man's change. Now, it is just a land for the few, if any. Land that can no longer be conserved or managed by the majorities who care. Do allow some limited hunting and access, or at least access through some of their property boundaries. And then there are those landowners who offer an even more limited access to the highest bidder. It's capitalism 101. You have an asset of value that is in demand. You let the marketplace dictate the value for what you can charge for that asset, and you capitalize on your hard work and success for one who, when the timing was right, had the ability and good fortune to make it all happen. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's good landowners like that that do allow us access that we sportsmen need. Where I grew up in Idaho, there are thousands of acres that good landowners have allowed public wildlife management to take place on their land. The Access Yes program is one that a guy like you and me can afford. All it costs is a quick phone call or two, and a little pride in closing gates and being a good steward of the land, and it's awesome. I've been on Access Yes land up in the north and had 1,000+ acres all to myself. It seemed like either nobody knew about it or nobody cared that with a little bit of work they could even access that part of the country. So basically, as an outdoorsman, conservationalist, and wanderer, there are opportunities out here in the West to take full advantage of hunting, fishing, hiking, and just recreating. Either find and learn the publicly held lands, know about the Access Yes program, or get a great job, a successful career, and earn the ability to buy your limited access to privately held properties. The amount of accessible land is relatively clear. What might not be so clear is how does the working class man access and hunt it. This fall, I have a handful of hunts lined out that are intentionally public land specific. In fact, most all of my hunts and adventures normally take place on public lands, Forest Service, BLM, state land, or wilderness areas. Some hunts I film, and others I don't. I do have a small private land lease in Oklahoma where I hunt whitetails with some friends, but typically I'm always out hunting somewhere on the public land ranch, chasing pressured deer, antelope, and elk, just like everyone else, and normally with everyone else.
This bull was coming in until those jackasses showed up. You can't tell me they didn't know. They drove right over the top of the sign. Closed route. Just pisses me off. Just chewing it up. It's supposed to be wilderness study area. Roadless, off limits, motorized vehicles.
4.5 miles back to the truck, and I am taking a hot bath when I get back. I guarantee that.
Hunting pressure from other hunters is just something you have to deal with out here on the public land. It is the land of the free, whether everyone is obeying the laws or not. Most hunters are decent enough to take pride in following all the game regulations and doing things the right way, but there are a select few who don't seem to care as much about the wildlife and the land as the rest of us. There are a lot of other factors that come into play with having a successful hunt on public land, and especially when you're hunting with general season tags in your pocket. The playing field is crowded and the competition is hard. Animals are more weary than ever, and other hunters are often more hungry. So how does a guy consistently find good success hunting on public land?
What I'm doing is just double checking on my maps where I'm at, making sure that I'm still on the public land, looking at the areas here of where I want to be and making sure that I've got a good clear travel route of it. And it looks like I've got to stay south because I don't really want to run into some private property up in here. So pretty much have the reign of the mountain. I can do whatever I want on this side of the mountain and then up over into that pocket. And then there's a couple little pieces of private up over in here.
Most successful hunters that I know have a few things in common to help them when hunting in public land: toughness, time, and technology. I don't know how to help you get more time, and as much as I'd like to keep technology out of my life, there are some things that I just can't go without when hunting in areas checkerboarded by private and public lands. In most cases, my maps are my lifeline. My little black book, you might say, with years of information accumulated from dozens of hunts all over the West. After spending countless hours looking over maps, marking waypoints, and just doing some general digital scouting for my desktop, I cache those maps on my phone or GPS device so that I can access them later if I'm hunting in an area with little or no cell coverage.
About 3 o'clock, up the canyon I go.
Caching is basically downloading specific segments of the map and information onto my device so that I can access them whenever I wander off the grid. Once on the mountain, I know that these maps will be there and I can adjust any waypoints and reference markers on the fly, and even make some notes on new points of interest while I'm in the field. And now a new feature with my onX Maps, I have the ability to share waypoints and locations via text or email with my wife, brother, or other hunting partners.
So I can tell they're satellite bulls, raghorns. I'm hoping that the herd's not in that thick timber there, because if they are, they can stay there. I ain't going after them. Now that the rain squalls passed for now, I'll continue back up to the top.
The only thing I know how to do well in hunting is to climb hard and keep walking, and I like to stay mobile and cover lots of miles. When hunting in familiar areas, I like to hit all the old traditional places where I've either killed an animal or have come really close before. It's hard not to go back to those areas where you've had good success in the past, but nothing out here is ever a guarantee. Seasons change, winds change, hunting pressure changes, and just when you think you've got it all figured out, you run into something out of your control that can either make or break your hunt.
High winds, lots of rain, cold kind of hungers them up sometimes. But then also just, there's been tons of pressure up here. I'm kind of ticked. Like, this is a roadless area. There's roads, but they closed it all off. And there's at least 2 sets of truck tires in here, and at least 2 or 3 different quads. It's just not fair. I mean, I bust my balls to get back in here 4.5, 5 miles. Packing out elk on foot. And some hoser comes in here in their truck and quad and just blows it all out. Oh, it is what it is, you know? It is what it is.
If you didn't already know, the Bureau of Land Management controls and manages roughly 11.5 million acres in Idaho, twice that in Utah, nearly 8 million acres in Montana, and a staggering 48 million acres in Nevada. Add that to the massive amounts of Forest Service and other state-owned lands in the West, And you can see how difficult that might be for government entities to manage law enforcement out here. Resources are limited and the sheer amount of land mass is daunting. That's why it's up to us as stewards and conservationists to do what's right and take it upon ourselves to help police and patrol, and just help the law enforcement out whenever we can. Hunting is difficult enough if we all played fair, but it's even more challenging when there are a few out there who don't. Nothing ever comes easy out here, and rarely is a hunt ever successful with just a little effort. Over time, a guy can learn from experience and find some good success. And sometimes, just when you think you've got it all figured out and it's all going in your favor, nature takes control, slaps you into reality, and blasts you off the mountain.
How the heck do I get this rain cover? The garbage bag rain cover came in handy.
And then, hunting solo, there are the residuals of being alone for days on end that can cause a mind to confuse itself with reality, and pretty soon other hunters and weather are the last thing that you have to worry about.
Always picking my nose on camera, aren't I?
But if a guy can keep his wits about him, hunt hard, and keep grinding, opportunities are often found.
Rain stopped.
And sometimes they're right over the next ridge.
Sun came out. Now it's snowing. Awesomeness. There's a spiked bull. Came out feeding in the timber down there. I do need the meat, I want the meat, but I want the horns too, so I'm gonna keep on moving back. See if I can find the herd. I think this wind has them all held up in the timber.
Over the years, there have been so many times when I just didn't have my mind right. Times when I was thinking about a ball game, a road trip, or my next business move. And my mind was wandering nowhere even remotely close to where I was hunting. And I'm usually jolted out of my swollen mind state by walking right into a chip shot situation. A gimme. An easy opportunity for someone who is thinking clearly, but so many times I've just been left standing in a duh moment of what the hell. Not really comprehending what just happened, other than knowing that I screwed up on an easy opportunity to make a clean kill.
Sure enough, bumped up 3 bulls right here. I wonder if it's the same 3 bulls that I seen yesterday. Except for the one bull, I would have shot him. He definitely was more mature, heavy. I didn't get him on film. I got the other 2 because I was able to get my call out and stop them and brought the little one back. In fact, he's probably still down here dinking around. Dang it, because they hung up out there at 50 yards. So I got behind this tree right here. You can see my bow sling still right there. Got behind that tree. I pulled out the rangefinder before I did anything. I'm like, 49 yards on the one, the big bull was at 52, and I'm like, okay. Took my pack off. And he knew something was up. He must have seen me. The other 2 didn't see me, but he must have seen me. Because he was gone. Dang it. Here I was moping because I wasn't seeing much. That's a good bull. I wonder, there must be a couple of strokers with the cows if a bull like that doesn't have any cows with him. That was fun. Keep going. See what else I find. Rain's coming again. It just stinks. Not for hunting, but it just stinks for filming. It's a pain. Pain in the butt. It was kind of a fun ending to a otherwise butt kicker of a day. I don't remember a time when I haven't walked out at dark and not heard elk screaming.
Staying in the moment mentally is important. When I'm thinking clearly, I always try to tell myself that it could happen at any time. In fact, most of the time my mind is so focused on the hunt and I'm working so hard that I actually expect it to happen at any time. And sometimes, to my own surprise or expectations, It does.
The wind's just all over, so I'm not exactly sure how to approach them. My kind of fallback is always to either sit and wait and see if the wind's gonna settle, but with the storm front, probably won't, or to get above them. Don't know if I should be going to the top or heading back down to the bottom. Been sitting here for quite a while, I haven't heard anything. Sometimes you'll hear like their antlers hitting the trees or something, just them dinking around, or sometimes they'll talk to each other a little bit. Well, they're getting a little bigger. I'm guessing that the big gnarly mature boys aren't here. I poke fun at everybody else that passes elk. I'm like, we don't pass elk. Had him on camera. I mean, he just wasn't quite where I wanted him for a shot. I think the closest he got was 41-ish.
It still happens all too often. My allotment of time is over, the hunt dates end, and I still have an empty cooler in the bed of my truck. Even when I am not successful on a hunt, I still take pride in going home empty-handed from a general season tag, do-it-yourself on public land. There's so much to learn from the overall experience of hunting in the wild alone. I often discuss with my friends that I would pay top dollar to have these kinds of unsuccessful experiences again, knowing that there were no guarantees and that I paid no favors or special advantages over the next guy willing to work just as hard or harder to hump these hills and find eventual success of his own. The beautiful thing about hunting is that there are opportunities for all. Opportunities for those with little money and no time, and there are opportunities for those with less time but loads more money. Both are just fine and circumstantial to the individual, and neither should be thought better of or looked down upon. It's all still hunting, and we all need to accept and protect that fact. The hunt is about you and your balanced relationship between recreating and making meat. And in the end, it's your choice to sit in glass or to climb and grind. My hunt should be for me and my specific desires, and your hunt should be for you and your own.